Good morning. Welcome to the third edition of Talking Tilton right here at Scuba's Place in partnership with the Tilton Historical Society out of Tilton, New Hampshire. And our guest this week is Pat Consentino. Hey, Pat, how you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. It's always great to talk, to people from my hometown of Tilton. I absolutely love it. So you are a selectman, and tell us a little bit about how you got into the position that you're in.
Well, I guess that's a really long story for a lot of years. I started out being budget committee when I was 18 years old. I was the youngest in the state of New Hampshire to hold an elected public office. Uh, my uncle and my aunt and my other uncle were very community oriented. My dad, not so much. He worked very hard, a couple of jobs, raising 8 children. So I was always taken with my community. I grew up in a very, very small community, a little bit smaller than Tilton. I only had one little store in it. Uh, we got to know people, and I just wanted to make a difference. After I served on the budget committee for a year, I felt that selectman was a position where I could really make changes. And that's what I started out. I ran as selectman for a year and a half. I stopped being a selectman because I wanted to. My dream position was with the phone company, climbing telephone poles, and I had been in directory assistance for a number of years at that time, and I had bid for jobs, and they had closed them out because they didn't want women in that field. And I finally, after 4 different tries, over the span of maybe 6 years, I finally got a position up in Lebanon. And
Okay.
I had to move. And I put politics on hold for a while. And I pursued my career, and I retired in 2001.
Hmm.
I lived in Tilton. I moved here in Tilton around 84, 85, in that range. Um, I lived here on Maple Court. Mr. and Mrs. Bosley were our landlords. Um, Lived here until they passed away. They were 95. We took care of them. Um, and then soon after that, that actually pretty close that same year, both my parents passed away. And I remember my mom leaning over to me and said, "If you hadn't given up, you'd probably be governor by now."
There you go.
I thought she was going to lean over and say, "I love you forever," but uh, it it sparked something in me that said, maybe it's time, maybe you can make a difference. And I looked into it, and I thought maybe I could make a difference here. Back when I was 18, 19 years old, there was nothing for seniors back in Atkinson, where I grew up, and
Mhm.
we came across a person that had passed away 3 weeks in his home, and it was not a pretty sight. I still remember the sight, sound, and smell. And we created, my uncle, who was chief at the time, uh, spearheaded a senior center, call center to check on seniors and develop a whole realm of senior uh, benefits for them. And I thought maybe we could pursue that here because there was nothing. It was like they were the forgotten ones. We had a lot
Right.
of things for children, but they didn't have anything for us here. And I wanted to pursue that.
That's actually a big thing because I remember back in the day when my grandmother was alive and she had the house at the end of Granite Street. And while she was living there, she had always complained that there was never really much for her to do. She wanted someplace that she could go. And I mean, bingo was always big back in the day. And she enjoyed doing that, but she said it just didn't give her a ton of connection with a lot of her friends. So, I mean, senior center has probably been a long time coming in the town of Tilton.
Right. It
And
is. Yep. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you had a direct hand in that. So tell me how that all came about. How did you guys get that started?
Well, once I was elected in 2009 as the selectman, it was new to me, and the Tilton Historical Society, the town of Tilton acquired the building, I believe, in 2007 from the Grange,
Hmm.
the old Grange Lochmere Women's Club owned it, and then the Grange, and then Tilton Historical Society. And there was no interest in that. They had started renovations in it. The kitchen was dismantled, and it was they had started a little bit of renovation and making a small little office, but it was just gutted down. The kitchen was completely gutted, and there was no movement, and nobody was using it for a few years. And knowing what I wanted to do with the seniors, I thought that perhaps maybe we could use that building. It was just a thought. It was just brainstorming. And I went to the board and asked if it was possible, if we got grants and donations, that perhaps maybe we could use it. It's a town building, if we could gather seniors and perhaps have meals there.
Sure.
That's how it started. And then we had a lot of phone calls from a lot of community people that said, I want to join, I want to be a part of it. And so we created a committee, and there were two parts to it. One was we created a chat committee, um, and that was a committee to give seniors rides to doctor's appointments and groceries and things like that, and to check on them regularly.
Hmm.
And that was separate. And then part of those that committee, there was a committee of 23, and then part of that, those people, they also wanted to be a part of the senior center. So we got together and tried to figure out ways to get grants and funding for renovations in the senior center. And Tom Gallant, Emily LaPlante, Iris Iano, Sandy Plessner, and Jane Alden were a group of the founding members of it.
Hmm.
And we couldn't, the first year we found it very difficult to start to get funding, because a lot of the banks and nonprofit organizations that gave funding to other agencies didn't feel that the town was behind us. So they wanted to make sure that the town was behind us. So we went back to town meeting and said, if you could give us an established a baseline to help us get the kitchen together, other people will come forward and give us money to get the rest of it together so we could get up to speed. And because a lot of our people that we went to for funding said, well, is the town behind you? And they wouldn't believe us.
Right.
So at town meeting, it was resounding support for $20,000 to renovate the kitchen, which only got us the basic renovations.
Right.
And so once we got the basic renovations, and then Lowe's and Home Depot and a lot of AutoServe and Walmart, they came in and they just um, liquid uh, lumber liquidators came in, and they came in and they said help with the flooring, and it was just one thing after another after another. And Franklin Savings Bank came in and they donated a heater and a furnace and air conditioning, central air,
Wow.
and it just fell together
Right.
one after another. So those donations way upwards of a little bit over probably 140, 150,000
Mm.
to today. It's still running. It runs on a very, very basic need from the town. I think it's the budget right now is around 6,000, and
Okay.
that's a town building, so it runs solely on, if we were not there, that's what it would run. While we're there, we fundraise to keep it open.
Gotcha.
Our monies keep, our fundraising monies keep it open. Our fundraising monies develop and build closets if we needed extra electrical, if we need it. We have right now, we're teaming up with partnershiping with the prison. We have an outbuilding that was built in the early 1700s. It's 3 compartments. We've had flooring. Fewer Lumber came up and donated flooring to it. And we had the builders come up and volunteer their time and put the floors in for us. But now we need to have it insulated and shored up so we can put some shelving in, so we can put some storage in, because there's no storage in the main building. It's a
Right.
gorgeous building, tin walls, tin ceiling. It's really unique. We do rent it, and that money in the rental on the weekends for weddings or showers or something like that, meetings, that goes back into the senior center fund so that we can keep the doors open.
Gotcha.
And this year, the town purchased a bus. So
Okay.
now we got a used 2009 Sprinter van bus, and we're looking for drivers. We have 2 drivers, myself and another gentleman, and we're looking for people to drive it. We have a lot of need for it, a tremendous amount of need right here in Tilton, but then a lot of calls are coming from Northfield and Sanditon. We want to partner with them. Uh,
Okay.
we would love to partner with them because the senior center is not just for Tilton, and we have a lot of people from Sanditon and Tilton, Northfield that come and also enjoy that. Uh, Monies through the community action have been very slim, so they closed the Belmont Senior Center down,
Oh, wow.
and they've limited hours in the Laconia. So there's a lot of people that now would like to come to ours. So right now ours is closed down because of COVID. They
Right.
they come and pick up their meals, but when it's open, it's very, very active.
Cool.
Music on Wednesday night. It's a full house. You can't get into the door. You have to get up,
Really?
get there really early. There's probably about 60 people. It's a lot of musicians that come on their own free time, and they just do a jamming session. And there's hot dogs and a meal that's you can purchase. Come early, have a meal, and sit and listen to the music. And then it's from 7 to 9. And we have the bus that goes around and picks up the people if they can't drive there to it.
Now, you
So,
guys ever think about like doing anything karaoke wise? I bet you that would go over big.
oh, I bet it would. I'm not really a karaoke fan, but I'm sure they are.
Yeah, I mean, being coming from a DJ family and stuff like that, I can picture that now. But if some of the singers are anything like me, they probably can't hold a tune in a bucket. But it's still, it's still fun. But
I think that they would actually ban karaoke if they had me up there on stage.
I love it. Well, at least you're honest. That's always a good thing. So, what are, I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of things going on in Tilton. I mean, a lot of people are talking about the historical aspect of the town. They're talking about it kind of coming back to life. The historical society is very big. They're, out there, they're doing the whole plaque thing. Where do you see Tilton going from this point? What are your goals to kind of bring back that historic value of the town?
I'd like to see the downtown. I'd like to see some economic development downtown. There's some really old buildings that are just sitting there lifeless. I'd
Right.
like to see them be brought back to life. Um, I've in my past, one of the worst jobs that we have as a selectman is taking homes for taxes. Um, in my past, we've taken a couple of homes that have been absolutely gorgeous. One of which Charles Tilton built for one of his family members, and it was absolutely gorgeous inside. But that was, unfortunately, it was sold for taxes because that's what we had to do.
Right.
And the person that purchased it made it into apartments, so that's kind of sad to see.
Yeah.
Like that not to happen. Um, but I would really like to see the downtown uh, change. Some of those buildings, the San Bonnie building, the along the river, and have some changes taken place down there. I'd really like to see some of those buildings that have been there for years and years and years, as long as I've been here, and no occupancy whatsoever. And
And
see,
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I enjoy coming home is seeing like some of the changes.
yeah,
Like where Tilton Endless Belts was. When we left in 1990, I mean, they had talked about doing so much with that, and then coming back to actually see the finished product and go into the hometown and walk through that park, with my mother. It was amazing, and it would be really, really cool, if more of that could come back to Tilton. And I know, just by looking at some of the pictures with the historical society, they're finding some of the old statues. They're kind of working with that, trying to bring back some of that nostalgic part of Tilton. Um, what do you think about, with the town kind of moving on and maybe, sprucing up, trying to get people maybe to paint, the buildings, try to, make it look a little bit more presentable. What do you think about that aspect? Is there anything in the works for that, or are you kind of keeping it all together in one ball?
well, I think one of the best things that we've done for the town of Tilton is to hire our town administrator, Jeannie Forrester. She's huge on economic development, and this is right up her alley. I mean, I think, although she this past year hasn't had time to do that, but um, I think that that's a go. I mean, I am for it 150%. I want to see it. I'd much rather see those kinds of things being done for the town of Tilton than the big box stores lined up all along Route 3. I
I
mean,
I agree with
that's
you.
a personal preference to me. That's what I want to see. I want some healthy. I do think that we really need some assisted living in Tilton, because I don't want to see all the people that have grown up in Tilton all their lives that have to move out because they now need some type of assistance. But I
Mhm.
think that that can be done with some type of preservation of the environment all around them, and
Right.
that can be done in a very healthy way. However, downtown, um, you know, I think that we don't need any um, big box stores or any
Right.
additional outlets all along like a North Conway. I think we really need to preserve what we have. We have a huge history, um, and I'm a fan of that. I mean, my partner has done old gravestone rubbings and history for, gosh, 35 years, and I've tagged along all over New England doing it. So I think it's a valuable history. So
Very cool.
yeah,
I agree with you. I was kind of shocked when we made it back home and all of a sudden pikes, sand and gravel, all of that was gone.
yeah,
And this, 4 or 5 lane highway was going through, and I'm just looking, I'm like, this isn't what I rode my bike through when I was a kid. I would go from Lancaster Hill Road all the way to downtown Tilton and never have to worry about boatloads of traffic and being hit. So that kind of took me back a little bit. And then, you go down the hill, you round the curve, and you're right there in downtown Tilton. One of the things that we tried to do, and I graduated in 1990, is about 1988 we tried to get together with some members of the town to buy the old H's building. And what we were going to do is, as kids, what we thought the town needed was something for the kids to be able to do. So we had tried to get some businesses together. We were going to get the H's building. We were going to make it kind of a kids center, video games, pool, stuff for the kids to kind of hang out. Do you think Tilton needs anything like that right now?
I do think that Tilton would benefit for something like that. A few years back, we were entertaining the thought of the church that's downtown. That was an offer that was made to us to renovate that into a community building
Okay.
and for several entities to use. But it wasn't cost effective for us to even entertain a donation to us
Right.
because of the cell tower that's embedded into it and the contract that they had with the cellular company. We
Oh,
had to maintain that, so it wasn't cost effective to the town to do that.
yeah. Well, I
So
could definitely
that was
understand
not,
that.
but absolutely, I believe in in a community building. I mean, think about this. Scouting can't even find buildings to have their scout meetings at.
That's the sad part.
It is. It's really a sad part. You know, we we've offered the senior center in the evenings for them to do that, but sometimes they do their food projects where they do their collecting for the food pantry, and
Sure.
then have to sort it out and things. So they need a larger space. If we had a community building, that would be perfect. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. I mean, there's all kinds of community use for that.
Yeah, and the possibilities are endless. I
Mhm.
mean, I remember, when we were living on Lancaster Hill, our scout meetings were held at the community center in Samberton, and it, it's sad to see that a lot of the places aren't used as much as they could be. And I mean, I don't know, with everything being built up, there's nothing like that hometown feel.
Mhm.
You just feel so close knit. For me, I could never live in a big city. I mean, Detroit is less than 45 minutes away from my back door. But we go just for a day trip and then we come right back home and we're nice, we're comfortable, we're safe. And I think that's really where, the small town feel, the small town community comes into play like that. Um, Talk to me a little bit about do you guys have any plans going forward this year? I know, 2020 was kind of rough. 2021 we're hoping going to be better. What's the town looking at in 2021 right now?
For in regards to,
Any like changes? I mean, plans that you guys have, projects you're working on, anything along that line?
well, we're just finishing up one of the biggest projects, and we've kind of fought for 11 years to get a new police station, and now it's coming to fruition. Last year, we voted a new police station on a little over $5 million project, and we're now moving into that police station in a couple of weeks. So the transition to doing that is huge. You know, there's a lot going on right now in the next couple of weeks, and getting our police situated, getting everything buttoned up with the contractors and all all the subcontractors and contractors, and then getting them moved in. So that's going to be the big one. But tax-wise, we can't add anything more onto the taxpayers right now.
Right.
I mean, that's a brand new $5 million project. Next on our list is fighting the state for Caleb Hill Road. 3 years ago, we asked them to rebuild. 4 years ago, asked them to rebuild Caleb Hill Road. It was all signed, sealed, and an 80-20 split, and then just when we went to engineers, they took it off the docket because there was no money in the budget. So Senator Guida found a way to put it back in there. We're going back to the town uh, this year on a warrant article to put it back into bonding, hopefully, and it passed. Because he's fought really hard to put it back on the schedule. So there's two big, large projects that we want to really do. Um, we have in the midst the island. Northfield no longer wants to own the island, so uh, Tilton is we're been in the works for a couple of years to take over the island, and there's some um, I don't say renovations, but updates that need to be done.
Mhm.
That that would be in the near future. You know, obviously the people have to vote on it, but that would be something that would be coming up that would need to be done.
Honestly, it sounds like you've got enough irons in the fire right now with everything you got going on.
Yeah, yeah,
We were able, even though, last year was so riddled with COVID, we were actually able to come home twice last year. So it was a blessing for us to be able to do that. And we saw, them working on the police station. And at the time, we didn't know what it was. I had to ask my mother. I said, "All right, well, what's being built out by the outlets?" And then she explained to me what it was. So, what are your plans for the old police station? Do you guys have anything in the works for that
we
now?
we sold the old police station, so that's going to be a company, church.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Somebody purchased that, and as a matter of fact, on the warrant article, it's going to be to take the money that we purchased, that they purchased, a good portion of the money and turn it back in. to go to the principal off of that loan, of the police loan. So
Very nice.
yeah, so that's been sold. Um,
So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing is that you still got a lot of things that are possible in the future for Tilton. I mean, it's always going to be something that's going to, be up and coming. And if people want to volunteer, they want to help, they want to donate, anything along that line, whether it be the senior center or stuff to help out with in Tilton for the town, can they just get a hold of you at the town offices, or how do they get a hold of you?
Um, I would, if they want to volunteer at the senior center, or there's different programs at the senior center. If they want to help us with the senior center or any fundraising, or if they would love to become a bus driver,
Mhm.
because that is so much in need right now to get us out. So you just need, we'll do a background check and a medical card. You don't need a CDL license to drive the bus. And we'll train you for the wheelchair ramp and all of that kind of stuff. But I'll give you my cell phone number. It's 387-5711, 387-5711, or you can call Gail at Town Hall, extension 100, 286-4521, extension 100, and they'll get in touch with me. But we would love to have volunteers. In any realm in Town Hall, we offer volunteers.
Perfect. All right. That's what we're looking for. Anything else you want to add before we wrap things up, Pat?
Um, I don't I love Tilton. Unfortunately, I'm not born and raised in Tilton. I don't know if that's unfortunate or fortunate, but I do appreciate the history. I appreciate in preserving the history. Just when I first came here 40 years ago and walked the small streets and the rivers, and I just absolutely fell in love with Tilton, and that's why I'm still here. I just love the community.
It doesn't matter if you're born outside of the state, the fact that you're there, and if your heart's there, you've always been part of Tilton.
Right. Yeah.
And that small town feel is something that's going to follow you no matter where you go.
Right.
It really is. Well, Pat Consentino, I want to thank you so much for taking some time and talking with me today.
I appreciate you having me. Thank
All
you.
right. It's been a pleasure. Again, you're listening to Talking Tilton. We'll be back again next month. We'll have another interview right here with the Tilton Historical Society and Scuba's Place Internet Radio. That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. And hopefully we can get together again in the future and then do it again, hopefully.
That would be great. All
All right.
right.
Thanks, Pat. You have a great weekend.
All right.